Do you find yourself cooking with cast iron, but you're not sure if you're using it properly or caring for it efficiently to make it last for years to come? Well, you have come to the right place. That was me years ago. My name is Tiffany, and I am so excited you're here. In this video, we are going to cover 6 common mistakes that you don't know you're making when cooking with cast iron. And that's not all. I also have a super simple strategy to help you create your weekly meal plan in minutes, but only if you stick around until the end. So let's get started. The first common mistake is that you don't allow enough time for your cast iron to heat up. Cast iron is very thick, especially when you compare it to your typical non-stick stainless steel skillet or other non-stick cookware. The cast iron needs at least 3 to 5 minutes for that oil to heat up, but it can take even longer. So one way to overcome this is to start heating up that oil in your cast iron while you are prepping your veggies or seasoning your meat, whatever you are deciding to cook for dinner that night. So you can put that drizzle of oil on, turn the burner up to medium or medium high, depending on what you're cooking. Start dicing those vegetables, season your protein, and wait for it to heat up. Now, another option is to preheat your cast iron in the oven. This is perfect if you are going to be cooking something in the oven as well instead of on the stovetop. So for this method, you'll want to preheat your oven to 400 degrees and put the cast iron in there right away. So allow the cast iron to preheat as the oven is preheating. So then when you take that cast iron out, once that timer has beeped, letting you know your oven is preheated, the cast iron is preheated as well and ready to go to start cooking. Now the second common mistake that you don't know you're making when cooking with cast iron is that you use the same skillet for everything. This is something that I was guilty of at first as well. Now, you don't want to be using the same skillet for everything because flavors are going to mix. Cast iron is seasoned. It holds bits and pieces of those flavors to allow for better seasoning and better flavors of foods that you cook down the road. So you want to have at least 2 different cast irons in your collection. One for those sweet treats and one for those savory dishes. Otherwise, you might find yourself with some fruity dessert that tastes a little fishy, and no one wants that. So have those 2 separate skillets. One that you will cook your seafood, your steaks, and any of those savory dishes. One of my personal favorites is a shrimp saganaki recipe that I got from Taste Buds. We'll get into that in a different video. But with those seafood recipes, it's definitely important to have that in its own skillet. And then you have your sweet treat skillet that you can use to make fruity desserts and anything else that your heart desires. One of my personal favorites is a giant cookie. So yes, you can make chocolate chip cookies, brownies, and fruit pies in cast iron as well. How cool is that? If you need some inspiration, definitely check out my website in the description below and search the recipes for cast iron. I would love to know what you try first. So before we jump into the third common mistake, I definitely want to hear from you. What is your favorite thing to make in cast iron at home? Whether it's savory or sweet, drop it in the comments below. I look forward to seeing what you enjoy creating and how I can best assist you in your future cooking experiences. So our third common mistake that you don't know you're making when cooking with cast iron is that you clean it too late. Now, not cleaning cast iron quickly enough is a big mistake. With most cookware pans, you want to allow it to cool, come to room temperature, or even deal with it the next day. With cast iron, that is not the case. You want to actually clean it while it is still warm, because that is going to make it easier to get any bits and pieces of the food off of the cast iron. It's also going to make reseasoning easier while that cast iron is still warm. So, proper way to clean cast iron is mild soap and water. You do not need a ton of soap because, again, we want those flavors to stay, because that seasoning and coating is what helps the cast iron continue to cook and reinforce that non-stick coating that we all love and enjoy. So don't allow it to cool completely. Clean it while it's still warm. If you need an extra elbow grease to get those bits and pieces off of the cast iron, a great option would be the pan scrapers by Pampered Chef. These typically come with our cast iron and stoneware collections, but you can also buy them separately in a pack of 3. These pan scrapers have so many more uses in addition to just scraping pans as well, but they are perfect for getting those stuck on food pieces off of your cast iron while you're cleaning it. So our 4th mistake that you don't know you're making is that you let your cast iron soak. Water is the worst enemy with cast iron. Do not let it soak. This is going to not only remove that seasoning non-stick coating, but it could ruin your cast iron by creating a prime setting for rust to set in, and no one wants that. Now, as I discussed with the cleaning, you don't need to let it soak. You don't need to use a ton of soap. Just mild soap and water, grab that pan scraper, and you're going to get everything off while it's still warm without any issues to worry about. Now, if you do find yourself using a little bit more soap than you intended, rinse it really well without soaking it. Just rinse it under the water really well, and it should come off with no problem. Now, with the cleaning, you do also want to make sure that it is dry, and that we'll get into here in a moment. But before we jump into those last 2 mistakes that you don't know you're making, I want to remind you to hit the subscribe button, because I'm dropping videos like this every week, and I would hate for you to miss out on the next one with some helpful tips and tricks. So our 5th cooking mistake that you don't know you're making with cast iron is that you don't re-season it. Now, this is another mistake that I found myself making as well when I first started cooking with cast iron. I figured, hey, it already came seasoned, so why do I need to re-season it? Well, the importance behind re-seasoning is to build up that flavor and build up that nonstick coating. And it's a lot easier to re-season than one would think. Now, one of the simplest ways to re-season is to do it right away after you clean it. So remember, we don't always clean it quickly enough. So clean it right away, hand dry it, and then re-season it. And with the re-seasoning, you can either put a little drizzle of oil and massage that around with a paper towel, and then heat it up on the stovetop until that all melts. Another option is to just dab the oil on the paper towel, wipe it around on the cast iron, and then put it back in the oven to heat back up and re-season that way. Now, when it comes to the oil, that is your personal preference. Olive oil is going to be one of the most common, but there are plenty of people out there that swear that canola oil is the best or that avocado oil is the best. It is up to you, your personal preference, and what you have on hand. Just make sure you re-season it after every use to reinforce that seasoning and ensure that non-stick coating remains. And our last cooking mistake that you don't know you're making is that you store it while it's still wet. Now, as I said, water is the biggest enemy when it comes to cast iron because it creates a prime habitat for rust. And no one wants the rustiness or the flavors of that in our cast iron or our foods when we're cooking. So after you wash it, re-season it, and make sure it is completely dry, that there is no more water that remains, that the oil is all soaked in before you store it. Another way to help with this in the storage is to have a paper plate, a paper towel, or something similar in between your cast irons when you're storing them. This is also going to help prevent any scratches or any wear and tear on the cast iron pan itself as well. So let's keep this momentum going by helping you create your weekly spread in minutes. And the easiest way to do this is by implementing theme days. So my favorite theme days are Meatless Monday, Taco Tuesday, Takeout Thursday, Stir Friday, and Slow Cooker Saturday. By using theme days, it takes the guesswork out of meal planning for you. You have your theme day, you have a list of a few family favorite recipes that fit in with that, and throw it in your meal plan, go grocery shopping, and you are set. With those family favorite recipes, it's also important to incorporate those week after week and get the entire family involved. As you sit down around the table, ask your family members what are some of their favorite recipes, maybe ones that you haven't had in a while, and slowly rotate through those week after week. Depending on whose favorite it is and their age, get them involved. Kids are much more likely to eat healthier and eat meals without being picky when they are involved in the prep and cooking. Plus, it's an excellent bonding experience. And if you are ready to create your weekly spread in minutes with even more tips and tricks, definitely check out my free guide in the description below and let me know what you try first.